Okay. Okay. Fine. Well, at least thank you for the two of you to attend the meeting and not leave me alone.
Yeah.
So as we said last week, I wanted to show you how you could use the Google Maps and Google Places API in an Angular project. Uh, it will be useful for the project we're building, but it will also be useful for any project you can use. Uh, it is interesting to have a look at it because it's not as straightforward as you could think. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean because today I'm going to try to do a live demo. We're going to
Hmm.
see if it works.
Okay.
Okay. Um, so first of all, I'm going to go directly to this page. Okay, so it's as easy as googling Google Place API, and then you reach the page very quickly. Probably the first choice. So as usual with all the Google infrastructure and services, it's extremely detailed and well documented. It's even in several languages, so it's very easy to understand. The bad thing is that there is a lot to read if you want to know everything. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Second thing which is interesting is that these APIs, both the Google Maps and the Google Places API, are paying APIs,
Yeah.
but with a very generous free tier. Okay, so
Okay.
you can have it here, or you can check it. I don't know where it is. Let me check. Okay, usage and billing. It's down on the. So you can see there are a lot of functions inside the Places API. A lot
Hmm.
of different things you can query for. Each and one of them has a different pricing. It's not very expensive, but it means that you have uh, to configure a payment method in your Google account. So basically, basic
Yeah.
data it's free. Then you have contact data up to 100,000 for a third of a cent for each, etc., etc. I won't go through the whole list, but it's more like that. It's 1 cent, or the very expensive details. I think they are like 3 cents per query, and Google give you $200 to spend on that API per month. So it means that probably you will reach more or less that they
Hmm.
estimate is 100,000 requests per month should be free if if you use it as in average. Wait a second, I'm going to close the doors. Sorry. So first thing you have to go to do to use the API is well, you can go to the overview over here and follow all the documentation set up in Cloud Console. So first of all, you have to create a project in your Google console. If you have created already a project in Firebase, it will also appear in the Google Cloud Console. Firebase, since it's integrated inside the Google Cloud architecture, it is linked with all the projects, so it will appear. If not, it's not really an issue. You can create a new project. It's super easy. So I'm going to click here. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to show you.
Hmm.
Um, window. Okay. I think you see the
Yeah.
okay. So I just clicked the create project. It takes you to this page. You give your project a name, blah blah blah, and an organization. If you work inside an organization, since it's a private account, there's no organization. The only thing that is important here is that you cannot change the project name after you create it. It's its ID. Okay, so you just create the project and that's it. So I'm not going to do it. I already have several projects, but one in particular called Code Mentoring Edition 1, where inside the Google console, if you don't know it, for those of you who are not familiar with it, you can access all the services that Google provides. Okay, so I have some favorite there, and what you have to do is just on this select box, you select the project you want to enable the APIs on. Then you look for the API and services. You go there, then you go to libraries, and here Google shows you all the APIs available. So you have to enable 2 of them because Google Places has a different API, but it's included inside the Google Maps general API. So first you find the map API for JavaScript because we're going to do it in JavaScript. Okay, and here, well, I have already done it, so I can manage it. But if you haven't done it, instead of manage, it will say enable. So you click on enable, and it will bring you to the following screen. Okay, with all the configuration and all the tracking data of this API in particular. So you do it for Google Maps, and you also do it for Google Places. So you go back to AP libraries, places. Well, it also corrected me. So places, okay, and enable, and then it will bring you to the. You also have here the pricing with some.
The difference between the Maps API and the places is information about a particular location.
Yes.
Whereas Maps is the direction stuff as well, like the GPS and all that.
Yes, exactly.
Like going point to point.
Okay, so the Google Maps by itself, it's everything related to maps, actual maps with direction, routes, and everything. Let's say GPS and map based. If you want to have access to detailed information about some places, then you have to use the Places API, which is inside.
Okay.
So, but you cannot have the Places API enabled without the Maps API. Okay.
Without map. Yeah.
So once you've activated, enabled both of those APIs, you still have one step to go, because those APIs, as I said, they are paying APIs. So even if they have a very generous free tier, you still have to input your payment data. So if you haven't done it, you just go to billing over here. I hope I won't show anything critical here. I know. Okay. And okay, here. And then you have a billing account. I guess if you don't have any billing configured, you will probably have a button say create something. And it's pretty straightforward. You just create something, and then you enter your credit card number, and that's it. And it's still, and you have some different payment method. You can input some different credit cards, and then each time you want to assign a billing account to a project, you do that on the project. So maybe you can configure several billing accounts, and then you can assign those different billing accounts for each project if you have different clients or things like that. No. So
yeah.
So I'm going to get back here to. I don't remember where it is actually. Let's see, the Places API, manage, metrics, quota, credential, support management. Probably it's in the credential. Yeah, maybe there. No, it's not there. I don't know. Well, I haven't. I'm not. I'm not super genius. So, because probably now it's difficult to find because I've already set it. But
Yeah, it already has the billing account, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So if you haven't set the billing, if you haven't linked the billing account to the API, probably the first thing it will ask is to do that when you reach the API. But now that since I've done it, that's why I'm not finding it. But I'm sure it's pretty easy. But the other thing you have to do is to go to the uh, IAM and admin to create an API key. Okay, because this API works with an API key, a public API key. So you go to where it is. Where is it? I don't remember what it is. Oh no, it's not there. It's not there. I think it's in API
API
credentials.
and services, yeah,
Yes,
credential, yeah.
that's it. So once you're here, you always have some already created default stuff when you create a project, but don't use those. Create a specific API a specific key for each API. This way you're able to deactivate or limit or control the access to those API individually, not just having just one key to use with everything in this project. It's easier to control the cost if it's billing based. Okay, so you just create credential, create API key, and it all brings you to this page. You give the key a name, and then you have to do a couple stuff. First, application restriction. You can restrict who is going to use this API key. Or no restriction, or just a website, or by IP address, or only Android, etc. For the sake of the exercise, we're not going to restrict anything. And the API restriction, this is important. You want this key to be applied only to those APIs. So in our case, the maps and the places API. So you just look for them here as a filter, just maps, select, places, select, and then OK, and that's it. And then you save it, and your key is OK. So this is the key, the API key. Okay, so after this, obviously after this session, I will delete this because it's recorded. So don't even try it. So you just don't worry, don't forget to copy that. And for the time being, we are done with the configuration on the Google side. So we've activated, enabled both the Google Maps and Places API. We've set our payment methods and the billing account. Probably at some point it will ask for the billing account to be linked to the API. We also create a specific API key, and that's it. So no more for that. So now we're going to create a new project. So to create a new project, which is already done there, to save some time, a new Angular project, you just go to your favorite folder, ng new.
You're not sharing your screen at the moment.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So you just places project. Okay, I usually use skip tests because we're not going to use test, and style SCSS, but that's personal preferences. It's not necessary. But anyway, you create a new project, and what is important now is that when you create the project, the command line interface will ask you for two things. If you want to have routes, so if you want to do a big project, okay, it's okay. And if you want to use the strict mode, normally for a normal Angular project, the strict mode is very recommended. But when you work with this API in particular, it's going to give you a lot of troubles with the linter. It's going to give you that it doesn't find some objects, and it gives you a lot of problem, and you have to do a lot of code that doesn't really mean anything. It's just for the compiler to be happy. So usually if you create a project just for that, don't use strict mode. Okay. So anyway, the project is already done. Okay. So we're going to go to the source map. And the thing is, this API, these places and maps API, although they have an HTTP endpoint that you could query, if you use it in your Chrome browser, it works. But if you want to use it inside an application, it doesn't work. Google protects it. So it obliges you to use their SDK. Okay? So it's not very cool. The other problem is that the SDK that you're going to use to retrieve it, you have to pass your API key. Okay? So what we are going to do now here is inside our app, we are going to have a very, very simple app. We are going to create, well, first of all, let me show you the final result. That probably will be much easier to understand what we're going to do, what we are going to do. 1 second. Okay. That's it. So that's the final project where you have a text box and you type whatever you want, and then you get the results if it works. And it doesn't work. Oh yes, it works. Okay. Okay, that's the goal of today's session. So all these data are coming directly from the Google Place API. So to do that, window. First, we're going to create a service called, I don't know, Google Places. I don't know why it's taking so long. I don't know. Like it doesn't work. I don't know. Well, doesn't matter. I do it by hand. Google places.service.ts. Since it's a service, I have to include it as inside a provider. So Google. Google Places Service. I really have an issue with my IDE today. I don't know why. So Google Places Service here. I don't know what's happening. It's initializing the Angular language feature. I don't know why. That's weird. Anyway, I can still type. So we create a service, and unfortunately, the first thing we have to do is to load the library. And why do we have to load the library in this way? We could put inside the HTML file and link the source over there. The problem is we need to know when the library is loaded to initiate to instantiate the first object. And if we pass it through there, it's a little bit complex. So what we're going to do here, we're going to define a method to dynamically load our script. So I'm going to explain that. So first, this is basically plain vanilla JavaScript. So we create an element of type script in the document. We know the type will be text JavaScript because it's a JavaScript library. Script source is going to be equal to our source argument. And then we're going to add this element to the body of our document. And then we're going to return the script object. Sorry. That we've created. Okay, so this method here inside the service just dynamically load the script we need to load to instantiate the Google Place API. So that's what we are going to do inside here, our service constructor. Okay, we use this method we just created, and we pass it the URL of the API. Okay, and this URL is very particular because, as you can see, it's like a generic root path, maps.googleapi.com/maps/api/js. But then you pass two arguments. First, you pass your API key, okay, with that we just created before in the console, and then you pass a second argument, a library argument with places, because as I told you, the places API is part of the maps API, so we have to pass that. So this is the route of the full Google Place API. So this script here, object, is actually a script, an HTML script that has some method. And what we want to do is we want to detect when this script is finally loaded to enable to instantiate the different services of the API. It's difficult to explain, but with the code, I think you will understand it very much easier. So first, I'm going to explain why I'm doing that in a few seconds. So we create a div element. HTML div element. And then, and here we're gonna private. I'm gonna put private. Yeah, private. A place service. Oops. So this is the variable where I'm going to store my place service from the Google API. So it's new. Oh, and I forgot something super important that it took me a lot of time to do. So to get some help, because as you can see now, if I type Google, just Google, the IDE, Visual Studio Code, doesn't know anything about Google. There's no autocomplete, there's no IntelliSense. So what you want to do is to install the types slash, let me check the actual, okay, it's types slash Google slash maps as a development dependency. It's just a declaration of the types. There's no code there. So you hopefully it's going to work. Okay, it's working. So with that, we download all the types from the Google Maps API. The problem is how I can tell Visual Studio to use those types. Well, in this case, what you have to do is something very weird that I didn't know before, which is the triple slash instruction with a reference at the beginning of the file. I didn't know that. It's a type. It's not Angular stuff. It's the TypeScript stuff. If you want to use a declaration as we just imported inside your code, you do it like that. You create some kind of HTML tag with a triple slash with reference types and then the name of the types. And now, if I where I was, if then now I have IntelliSense on my object. So now it knows what Google is. It has a Maps object. Inside the Maps object, there are all the functions and services of the Maps API. In our case, I want the places. And from the places API, I want the places service. Okay. So the place, as you can see, you have everything here. The places service needs to be attached to a specific element in the DOM. So that's why we created a div here. Even though we don't need to append it to our document, we just create a div, which is sort of a virtual div. And then you can create this service based on this div. It's useless, but you have to do it like that. Okay. So now that's why I was, that's the, let's say, the intellectually most difficult part of the code. And I'm going to try to explain again. You want to have this service available because this object, this places service, is the service from Google that you're going to use to make a request to the API. So you want to instantiate it at some point. The problem is you don't know when the library is going to be loaded. Maybe you're on the bad connection, so you cannot just create this in the constructor from the start, because maybe this service is executed or loaded by your application before the script is downloaded from the internet. So it will fail because you haven't loaded the script. So you have to dynamically load the script, wait for it, and when it's loaded, then you can instantiate the object from the script. That's I don't know if it's clear.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. So here, to make it a little bit more verbose, we can define the places service as a Google Maps places service. And now we can, well, that's the way I instrumented it is, I'm going to copy paste from my original code. Okay, so let me import what I need. Okay, so this is not the perfect way to do it. Okay, it's maybe the easiest way to understand and to show how it works. So we defined inside our service a public variable called results of type behavior subject, which is, if you remember, some kind of observable, easier to manage. And this behavior subject will contain an array of place result from the API. Then we initialize it with an empty array. So the process is we're going to have a method that requests some data from the API. And when we get those data, we're going to update this result variable with those data. And then in the template, in the view, we're going to reference these results, and it will get updated by the binding, the Angular binding, normal, typical stuff. So let's do that. So public get predictions text. Oops. Type string. Okay. Promise Yeah, I've lost control. Oh, okay. Okay, so since we are going to call the API, obviously we are going to use promises. It's an asynchronous process. The problem with all these APIs, they don't use promises, and we either observable, they use callbacks because they are old SDK. So it's that's why I chose to use it this way, to use a promise. So this is a traditional way to transform a callback function into a promise. So you return a new promise, okay, with all this. So a new promise which has a resolve and reject function inside as parameters, and then you have a try catch block. Inside the catch block, you console log the error and you reject your promise with the error. Okay, so first we are gonna check first if the text is something. So in this case, I don't need that. So here, first thing I do, inside my function, I check if the text variable, the text argument passed to the function is empty, whether it's undefined or null, or if it's an empty string. In this case, I just return an empty array. Okay, so what I do here is I update our observable with an empty array, and I also return the empty array from the get prediction. If it's not the case, meaning that if the text argument parameter contains something, then I can call the API. And this API, so my places service, you can find place from phone number, from query, get details, nearby search, or text search. Okay, so we use text search in our case, and this takes a request of type text search request arguments and then a callback. So first, the request, it's a very easy request. It just has well, everything it's in the documentation in the Google web page, obviously. So here, that's it. That's the argument. We just pass an object with a query key that contains our text, and that's it. And then we have the callback. So the callback is result status. So this callback method will be called by the API when the call has finished. So if either it's successful or it has an error, you will get some information on the result and on the status. Okay. So basically what you should do is check if the status is okay, blah, blah, blah. If it's not okay, just generate an error, blah, blah, blah. So we're not going to do all that. We just assume that the result is going to be okay. So we just update our observable with the results, and same as before, we return the result from the promise. We resolve that. Here we go. So here's here, I think it's missing that. I don't know if it's clear up to now.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
all good.
So it is a lot of code just to get a promise from a callback function. And I think that's it for our service. So here, all right, I had an error there. So now we'll go to the the component. Let's go to well, I'm going to just copy paste because I'm not going to teach you how to write HTML at that point. So basically there's a lot of divs and stuff because for formatting, but what is really important is first we have an input element that you name with the hashtag from Angular. That means that when you do that in Angular, it helps you retrieve this element from the code. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do that. So this is a shortcut from doing ID text and then get element from ID blah 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 in the code. Okay, so it's a shortcut. So first we have this input, and then we do an unordered list, and we iterate on the places observable. Then I'm going to show you what that. And then here we just display some stuff. So inside the code of this. So first thing we have to do is we just get rid of that. We use the view child annotation text, and this is an element reference of type HTML input element. Okay, so when you do that in Angular, basically what you're doing is as soon as the component is instantiated, it will retrieve the input element, the input HTML element, and it will assign it to this variable with the type of HTML input element. Okay.
What does view child do?
Sorry?
What does view child do?
That's it. View child, the annotation of view child, it says that look inside your template. See how I put text here. Look inside your template for an element with a tag of text.
That hashtag, okay. Yeah.
Hashtag of text. Mm-hmm. And assign that element to that variable.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so it's very similar to say constant is equal to document get element by ID text. This is plain JavaScript. Okay, so the view child, let's say that to use that for a very normal standard HTML element doesn't bring any added value from using the get element from ID. The difference is that if you're trying to get another Angular component, you do it the same way, but instead of HTML input element, you could put the component. So you will get access to all the properties of the component. If you do it with the get element by ID from the plain JavaScript, you will just get a reference to the tag. You won't have a class behind it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then very easy. We just map our places variable to, let's start from the beginning. So we have a constructor. In our constructor, you're going to use our places service that we just created. That's it. And here we're going to create a places, which is to this places service results as observable. Okay, we just map the result variable from the service to a new variable called places. We're just doing, it's just like a, how do you say that? A path through to be able to access this variable inside our template. Okay. And then we're gonna define, public find places, text string, oops, void. And here we're gonna say this place service get prediction. Let me think. This is not cool. Let's say value here. And then we're going to do something. Let me think. I'm thinking about how to show something. Okay, let's say value for the moment. Then, okay, that's it. We know that we call the get prediction method, and this method in the service will update the result observable. So this observable will also be updated. So we're gonna reach this. So what we are missing here is how can I trigger this? So what I want here is change. Oops. Find places event. And now we'll stop this. Oops. Terminal npm start. So let me see if I can put both screens. Close to one another. There we go. Where is my, okay, Google Meet, present, entire screen. This one. Okay. I hope you can see both screens. So both windows.
Yeah, we can see both.
Okay. So I don't know why it's taking so long. It's probably going to be very ugly because we didn't do any styling. That's awful. I was trying that like half an hour ago before we start, and there were no problem. And now it's, I don't know, when it gets stuck. I don't know why.
Maybe there's some background process or something.
Well, actually, there is not.
Application.
No, it happens sometimes with VS Code. I don't know why. No, I don't have anything.
Yeah, I have issues. I think it has a way that it caches or holds on to more information.
Yeah, well, as far as I can see, CPU, it's from the 12 CPUs I have, they all are below 10%.
Yeah.
So it's not that. I don't know what it is. It's not very.
What happens if you run the ngserve from your command line, your local one, the computer command line?
Let's try. Well, I don't know. It's even slower to. Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
It was pretty weird. At some point, it got unlocked and it stopped working, but I don't know why.
There you go. It's
Yeah,
compiling now.
maybe it's because it's the first time. I don't know. The first time we compiled it, maybe I don't know. I have no clue. But at least it's doing something. Okay, so it should load. Okay. And now it doesn't work, but I knew it. That's expected. So what's the issue? Let me. What is that? Where is the? No. No, 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 no. I want to put below. Okay, so let's look at the source of that and see. Oh yeah, yeah. Hey, here we go. It works actually. But it's pretty weird. That's not working correctly.
Yeah, it should be an array, not just one result.
There should be more than one,
Yeah.
and what pizza does have to go with Chipkin automation
Yeah.
systems? Anyway, the issue is because of the way promises work and all those stuffs, we have to do a little bit more coding. So we have to go back to our app component, and this is very Angular related. It has to do with the way Angular manage the update of all the variables that are bind to the view. So to help with that, you use the change detector reference. So to manually force Angular to recheck if there's anything to update. So here, that's why we made a promise before in the service, because we needed to know when the call to the API was finished and was back. So here, actually, we don't care about the results because we already have the results in the observable, but we need to know when the call comes back. And when it comes back, we want to tell Angular to update the references we have in the view with the data that has been updated. So normally it should work better, or not. Looks like not. That's so weird. That's the danger of live coding. What have I done wrong? Oh, I know. Oh, I think I know. Okay. Let's go to our component and let's put a breaking point here. Okay. So what we've done here in the template is to bind the change that it's working correctly. Pizza, and then I have to click outside, and then let's say, I don't know, church, and then click outside, and then the change event is triggered, because the change trigger in an input is only triggered when the element loses focus. So you have to get out. It doesn't take into account the keystrokes. Okay, and the value is the actual event. It's not the text. So the value is a JavaScript object that has all those parameters, and that is what we are passing to our function to make the prediction. So the API is going crazy. It doesn't know what to do. So what we have to change here is, instead of targeting the whole object, what we want to
target.
Yeah, target and value, I think.
Target, yeah.
Yeah, let's see that. So value, target, and shit. Where is it? Or text, maybe? Should be value, no?
It should be value. It's target.
Because there are more. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there. Value.
Okay,
sure.
it's here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So value here is not a string. It's an event. So we save that and we reload. And now if I do, I don't know, hotel, and I click outside, then here value is hotel. And here we have the hotels. Okay, the list of hotels.
So those icons also come back from the server?
The next thing I wanted to show you is, so let's go to the service, and then going to gut prediction. Okay, here, when the callback function is called, restaurant. So I'm gonna get rid of this breakpoint, and that's it. So those are, well, the status is okay, perfect, and result is an array which is limited to 20. Okay, if there are less, it's less, but then it's 20. There's a paging stuff also that you can choose, and then these are all the parameters that you can have on the basic request. Okay, so as you've seen, there's a lot of pricing. You can ask for basic, which is the cheapest, or you can ask for detailed. You can also ask for atmospheric information, opening hours, contacts, and stuff like that. Each time you add more details, the more expensive it becomes. Okay, because you have to add the different prices for the different kind of family of parameters that you want to retrieve.
So this object is just the basic information, which actually gives you a lot. You have the name.
Yeah, it's not the most basic.
Yeah.
Huh? There is another service, which is the autocomplete service, that give you a lot less information. No photos, no icon, just the family, the name, and the address. That's it. And this is the one that costs a third of a cent. So it's almost free. But here, as you see, the opening hours, you got it, but there is just a function that say if it's open now or not. If you want to have the details of the hours, then you have to expressly request it, and then you're charged for it. But here you have the business status, the formatted address, the geometry, which is latitude and longitude, the icon. This is the icon I display. The icon is the family of this establishment. See, it's a restaurant. It's not an icon that you can define as an owner of the place. It's the category of the place. Then the name, some links to some photo that people have published, if there are photos. Again, if you want to access the photo, then you get charged for it. The place ID, this is something you can use to uniquely identify. The price level, if it's $1, $2, $3, it's the category, the rating of people. And then an array for the types. That's the way Google categorize places or establishments. So since it's a company, it's not just like a park, it's an establishment. It's also a point of interest. It's food, restaurant, bar. They assign different tags to any place that you can find. Okay. And then the user rating total. So 177 people have rated the place with an average of 4.3 out of 5. So this is all the data you get from each place that matches the query. Okay? But bear in mind that what we wanted to do is sort of an autocomplete stuff. And this is not autocomplete because here I can type whatever I want as long as I don't go out of the input box. It doesn't trigger the search. So if I go outside, then it's going to search and return 0 results, obviously. So what we want to do is, instead of binding to the change event, we bind to the input event. The input event is triggered each time a key is struck inside the input element. This is plain JavaScript code. So here, I'm going to put the breakpoint here. So each time we're going to request the find place. So here, if I press the A key, then value, it's again an event, and same target value, blah blah blah. Here we have A, so we are searching for A. So I'm going to get, well, I'm going to keep it, I'm going to disable it. So a research for A. So imagine we want to find restaurant. So we type RESTAU. Okay. So each time I type a letter, it's going to trigger a search. That's probably not the best thing that we can do, because since we get charged for each query, it doesn't make any sense that we trigger a new query for each keystroke. Maybe we want to wait for the user to finish typing, or to wait for the user between letter and letter before triggering a search. We don't want to go to the extreme that we had before, to wait for the user to go out of the text box and press some keys or something like that, but maybe not just as soon as the key is pressed, because we're going to trigger hundreds or not millions, if the web is successful, of searches, and it's going to cost us a lot. So again, we take advantage of RxJS for that. And what we do is the following. That's why we had to declare this variable at the beginning. So here, we're going to use one of the lifecycle event of Angular, which is called after content init. And this event, it means there, if you look in the Angular documentation, you will see that there are a lot of events from the lifecycle of the creation of the component, from its creation to its destruction. And the one that interests us is the after view init, not after content init, after view init, which, as the name indicates, is triggered just after the view is rendered. Okay, because we want to get the text element. The text element, this input here tag, doesn't exist until the view is created. So how Angular works is the JavaScript code is executed. So it's starting to use that. The constructor is executed. The code inside the brackets here is executed. And after everything is executed here, then it creates the view that is referenced up there. So if we just try to use the text variable that references something from the view before the view is rendered or is created, we're going to get an error. This object won't be assigned. It won't exist. So we have to wait for the view to be created and to be notified by Angular that the view is ready to be queried. We use the after view init. Okay, so it's just to illustrate. Okay, here you go. As soon as the view is ready, this is get called. So now what we are going to do is we're going to transform a normal classical JavaScript event to an observable. And for that, we just use the from event operator from RxJS, and it will take care of it. So the way to do it is this text. The text variable is what it is an element ref, and an element ref has a native element which is a direct reference to the HTML tag. And then what we want is to bind the input event of this element to an observable with the from event. So those are the two parameters. All this line means from this element from the view, listen to the input event, and when the input event is triggered, push something into the stream of a new observable. So now this is an observable, so we can listen to it and do stuff with it. So first, well, I'm going to do that. First, pipe subscribe. And here we have an event. This find place. This text native element value. Okay. And now I can go here and I'm going to get rid of this. I don't want to listen to it in a normal way. I want to listen to it from this. Okay. So now I've just done exactly the same. Let's say I've subscribed to the input event from this HTML tag, converted it to an observable, and as I have subscribed to this observable, and each time there is a new value, I will trigger this function with the whole value of the text variable, which is the input element in the HTML. So it should work exactly the same way. So let's see here. No, it's not working. Value of undefined. Which value here? Oh yeah, sure. Sorry. Here in this case, to the function we are passing now the string. We're not passing an event anymore. We are passing a string. So here it's just value. It is a string. Okay, so A and it's triggered. B and it's triggered. So we haven't done anything new. We've just changed the way we're listening to the event. But what we can do now is use the bounce time operator, which should I don't know why it doesn't work. It doesn't matter. So the bounce time from the operators, and we're going to wait 300 milliseconds. Okay, and the bounce time operator in an observable, what it does is, remember that an observable is like a stream. So if many values are pushed down the streams, the stream, the debounce time will stop these events or these values to go down the stream if they occur before 300 milliseconds. Okay, so it doesn't matter how many, it will like block them, and as soon as 300 milliseconds has elapsed, then it will release the flow. So this is exactly what we want, because if I start tapping now, nothing is happening, but if I stop tapping, then it's triggered. I don't know if you see the difference.
Why does it only trigger when you stop time? The 300 milliseconds starts after you stop typing?
Yes. What is happening is when I type, when there is a keystroke in the input box, this event here is triggered. So there is a value in the observable. But if there is another input, another event before 300 milliseconds, it doesn't go to the next step. It's getting blocked. So it means that as long as there is not 300 milliseconds between event and event, I won't let it pass. As soon as there is this time between two values in the stream, in the observable stream, then I will let it pass. That's exactly what I want. I want to give the user the sensation as long as he's typing, nothing is happening. And as soon as he stops typing, even if it's for 300 milliseconds, then the search is triggered. That's what I want to do. Okay. So that's why that's what is happening here. If I don't know if you hear the keystroke, but if I do, nothing is triggered. But if I stop, then it's triggered. So that is the way to avoid placing hundreds of unnecessary requests to the API. Because if you type, as I said before, if you want to type restaurant, you don't want to search for R or for E or for S or for T. You want to search for restaurant. So if I type restaurant, then when I finish and I stop typing, then it's okay. So the time here, well, it depends on your user base. If you know you're targeting young people, maybe 500 milliseconds is okay. If you know your target is probably old guys or grandpas, probably 1.5 seconds, because people usually they type with 2 fingers and it takes them much more longer to type some stuff. No, so if we put 1.5 seconds, then I go 1. And nothing is triggered. I have to wait for 1.5 seconds for the search to be triggered. Okay, so
okay, that's what I was not understanding. So what it's doing is when you type the first time, it's sets it up, and then you type again. If you don't type again within the 3 milliseconds, that's when it will fire.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Each time there is a new value inside the observable coming into the observable, the bounce time check if the previous value arrived more than, in that case, 1,500 milliseconds ago. If it's true, then it let it pass. If it's not true, then it keep blocking. So between two events, two value coming to the stream, if there is not this amount of time, the flow is interrupted.
Okay.
As soon as between two events there is this amount, and each time there is a new event, the timer is reset. It's not between the first time you type and the last one. It's just 2 consecutive value in the stream. And that's it. That's what we've done. So there is no more code for today. I think the change detection here, I'm not sure it's necessary. I don't know why I needed it yesterday. Yeah, no, it's okay. It works.
So if you don't type again, so if you typed PIZ really quickly and then you stopped,
yeah,
it will continue on after that 15.
So if I type PIZ and I wait, then it will search for PIZ. And if what is...
But as long as the following events are happening faster than that window, it doesn't do anything.
Exactly. What is not okay, let's say, and what we have not done because it's not ready in the API, a good practice would be, imagine that we made a mistake, and instead here of 1.5 seconds, we forget 10 and we just put 150 milliseconds. So the person typing has to type extremely fast because between two keystrokes, it cannot have there cannot be more than 150 milliseconds. So it's typing very fast. So we're not doing actually anything. But what we should do there is, if a request is placed before the previous request is still on, we should have a way to cancel the previous one and issue the new one. Okay, if we put 0 here, which is as doing nothing, what we're going to get back to our initial scenario. So each time I type, I'm going to check, I'm going to issue a request. As you can see, the requests are quite slow. They take like, I don't know, maybe half a second or maybe a little bit more. But in terms of autocomplete, it's not immediate. So what should be possible is, as soon as I need to issue a new request to the API, I should have the possibility to cancel the previous request, not being charged for it, because I don't care about the result, because I'm going to issue a new one. But this API doesn't have this possibility. You cannot issue, which is normal by Google, because the way they charge you is by request. So it will be counterproductive for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that will be, if you build an API yourself, it is a good practice to enable people to cancel a request. It's going to take some time. It's even better for you, because you release your servers from doing unnecessary work, because probably you're getting charged for it also. Okay, so I don't know. I am actually very glad I've been able to explain everything in less than 1 hour and a half. So it's okay. I don't know if you have doubts,
very cool.
Questions.
It's something you can use in a lot of different ways. So it's very cool.
Yeah, well, it's okay. What I can show you very, very quick is, let me see if I can do that very quick without touching a lot of code. Okay. So I'm going back to my service here, okay, and I'm going to show you how to use some other service from the Places API. So we were using the Places service from the API. There is also an autocomplete service. So I'm just copying and pasting, but it's exactly the same. As soon as the script is loaded, I define or I instantiate this service, and then I'm going to use it. So I have to change. Here this thing. Let me check that. So so here, instead of place service, I'm going to use the autocomplete service, and the method is get place prediction, and here it's not query, it's input. Okay, so it works exactly the same, but the syntax is it's slightly different, but the result is the same. The type of result is not the same, so it's not.
So do you need to attach it to that div as well, the way you did?
No. Curiously, this one you don't. I don't know why. Some you do. I think it's because it's a very old API, because Google Maps and Google Places exist from ages, and they have not revisited it. It's still the same stuff. So there are some incongruent stuff like that. The autocomplete service should be attached to a div, because it's its goal. It's to do an autocomplete stuff. So it should be attached to some input. But the Places service, it doesn't have any sense that you attach it to anything. So I don't know. It is. So the only thing, it's start blocking. So the Places prediction gives you what is the return type? I don't see it. Promise it's here, but it's the result. Okay, autocomplete prediction. So here we don't have a place result. We have an autocomplete prediction. Here, 2, and probably in the component here. Well, I haven't defined it, so perfect. All right. Okay. So I'm going to comment this one, and here, well, the result is different. So as you can see, since I have autocomplete, this is the only thing we're going to get from this call. But this call is like 5 times cheaper.
Mm.
You get less info.
Autocomplete is cheaper?
Autocomplete is cheaper. Probably it's the cheapest.
That's because that object you get back doesn't have as much information?
Yeah, that's it. They charge by information. So the more info you get, the more expensive it is. So here, well, I'm going to just do go to the service and then to the result here. And so I'm going to look for pizza again. Oh, shit. Sorry. Let's go back to our debounce stuff and put it to 500. Okay. So let's reload. And then I load pizza. And then I get the results. And autocomplete, the maximum result to get is 5. This is you can't have more. And the thing is, it just look for everything in if you put pizza, it will look from the places, the cities, the countries. It looks in every field, and it gives you the result that matches. And you have the, as you can see, you have the
probably best for writing in an address if you're trying to find something more specific, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it depends. Exactly, it depends on the goal, and then it depends also on what you want to do with the results. Because as you can see here, you have a description, and inside the description, it's all concatenated. So you have the name of the place, Pizza Flama, and then the address, and the state and the country. But I mean, the format is completely random. If it's something in Zimbabwe or something in Spain, the format will be different. Maybe the street number will be first, and then or last, or zip code is different. So there's no way to parse that. It's just to show on the screen and say, okay, for the guy to say this is the place, because we human, we are much better than computers to recognize patterns. So here it says, okay, I recognized one string, which is pizza, because you can put more than one word in the search. And as you can see, well, let's see. Let's do that. Let's put that to 0. Okay, and let's it run. If I type pizza, you see how fast is it? How fast is it? Fast it is? It's immediate. So as let's say restaurant, it's almost immediate. So if you want something super quick, it's much better to use autocomplete. It's cheaper and you get very fast results.
Yeah.
Of course, this is logical because the other service, you're retrieving a lot of info. Probably they have to query some different databases, some different tables, so it takes some milliseconds, and everything adds up. Okay,
so there's I'm assuming there's probably an add-on where it uses your location and knows to bound the results based on the location.
Yes, from what I've read, so inside this object here, the query object, we can see it here. If we go there, here, okay, you have these parameters. Okay, so you have location where you could input latitude and longitude, and an origin, a radius. So you can say, okay, my point of origin is Madrid, and the radius is I don't know, 10,000 meters. It's in meters, and it will give you the result inside this radius.
Yeah.
You can also define a session token, which is not a security stuff. It's just if you're using the same API key in different apps, you can define a different session token for every app, and then in your billing, it will differentiate the cost for every token. It's a way to categorize your costs. And then the types, it's an array of type. If you only want to have restaurants or, I don't know, parks or whatever.
Okay, so that's why sometimes when you're dealing with an app or a page that's using this, they ask you your location first.
Well,
and then when you put your location in, then they use that location to figure
yes,
out.
yes,
from your
for
server.
maybe for the autocomplete,
Yeah.
I would agree. But if
Mhm.
if you use the other one, the places service, you also have all these parameters and also and more than that.
hmm
But I think that by default it does it. If
hmm
you don't specify anything, because I'm going to try to,
Oh, the other API by
yeah, the other
default, it
API, the
looks like your
places service,
location.
I'm going to just Control Z everything. Okay. Is that okay? No, it's not okay. I have to change here also. So the description, it's not, it's the name, and this is okay. So now it should work. All right. So I'm gonna here put 300. And the query is still the same. I'm just querying for the text. And as you can see here, I have location, radius, type. That's it. I have less actually parameters. If I input restaurant,
This
if you
all
can see,
Madrid,
it's
Spain.
Madrid,
Yeah.
Madrid, Madrid, Madrid,
Yeah.
Madrid, Madrid.
Yeah.
So it
But it's
automatically
already taken into account.
it gets. So probably this is also the reason why it takes longer to get you some result, because first it had to consult some way from your location, probably from your API, because it's not from the browser. Because if not, the browser would have asked for permission
hmm
for the code to use your actual location. So it's something that happens server side. So probably it's thanks to your IP address.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's something else that added to the time the request gets the work that has been done to the request. But yes, it's all Madrid, Spain.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know it, Madrid is the city with the highest concentration of bar in the world.
You'll get the most results for bar.
It's going to get very expensive to look for
Yeah.
bars in Google Places in Madrid.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more question that I can answer?
This object also tells you the number of results that have come back.
No,
Oh,
actually, it
you
doesn't.
just count the array, the length of the array.
No, because these the both services are limited. So the autocomplete.
Oh,
is
that's right.
55,
You're right. It's limited. Yeah.
and the other one is 220. But you have another parameter which is the paging. So when you get the result, you also get a URL to query to have the next 5 or next 20 ones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's useful.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
if you want to use it as an
just trying to
autocomplete,
find something. Yeah.
yeah, because if you want to have an autocomplete with more than 20 possibilities, really doesn't mean it doesn't work. You have to be more concrete, no, more precise.
Yeah.
All right, then.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very, very
So,
cool.
what do you think? What could we do next week?
I guess some version of this is useful to what we're trying to do, right? When the person is trying to set up the venue, thinking about how we would use that in our flow, or create to help with making sure that the venue that's being set up is a real place, an actual address.
The problem is, I've looked into the documentation for the contact of the owner of the place, and it's not something that they give. It's not available. So our ID to use that to get an actual existing place and ask a confirmation from the owner that it is actually the real owner of the place, it's not possible.
Yeah, so I think what we could do, though, is just avoid duplicate places being entered. So if you use this for creating the place, we have the ID from here that says that's the actual place. So if somebody else tries to add that place, it's either grayed out or it already says this is already claimed, and it shows you who has it. So then they'll have to work it out between themselves.
Yeah, correct. What is also interesting is that from the Google perspective, creating or requesting the ownership of a place is free. It's completely free.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. I thought it was like, since it's a business, usually you want to reach Google for Google. Well, first Google create everything. They create everything. So they created the place. If there is a restaurant, they create it actually. They create the place.
So there's always a stub of it, right?
Yeah, they know that in this place there is a restaurant called blah blah blah. Well, Muchi Fusion Food in this street. They don't know who the owner is, but the place is actually created.
Yeah.
And if you see that when you search for it in Google, you get the actual result from this place, and you can say, "Crap, this is my place. I want the ownership of that." So you just have to write an email. I guess they ask for some confirmation, some paper or whatever, some proof, and that's it. And then it's yours until somebody contests it, and then there is some kind of internal trial to see who's lying. Yeah. But I was surprised that it was free. Yeah, I would have thought that it was for a small amount.
I think that their whole thing is they monetize searching. So the richer the information can be about locations and who it is, and that's why they added opening times and all that stuff. Because now when I want to find, say, this particular restaurant, I'll use Google because I want to get all that rich information. So the more they can populate it with, the better for them.
Yeah, of course, probably, yeah. That is completely true. But if you are a restaurant owner and you know that, or you want to claim that ownership to Google to probably put more input and put your phone number to get contacted, etc., and Google want to charge you $50, who's gonna say no?
You're right.
So I agree that their goal is to get as much information as possible, but on the other side, they know that if you're the owner, you're not going to say no to Google to get your place well placed and appear with some details in Google. That's your benefit. For $50, you don't care.
Yeah.
So I was surprised. I would do it, actually. I would charge more than $50. Probably people would probably pay much more for that. And with more than 3,500 bars in Madrid, just.
But I think it's the same reason Gmail is free. They have the scale, then they monetize something else because they're getting such a large number because it's free, right?
It's free. It's actually free. Well, actually, in Gmail, you have very, very, very little ads. You have some mails sometimes, but it's very, very, very little invasive.
Well, I think Gmail, initially it gave them a lot of information about people's patterns,
it's about data.
Things that people are doing, all that stuff, right?
Well, imagine, I guess you're using the autocomplete of Gmail. When you start typing stuff, it just completes the phrase, not the word. It just completes the whole phrase.
It knows how I write, basically, at this point.
Yeah, but not just you. That's because of the hundreds of millions of lines of text that people types in Gmail. They're able to train their AI very, very precisely in all languages.
Yeah.
That's the value of it. And then if you want to use that, there's an API to use it.
Before Google Assistant, there was this service they gave which was free, where you could call up to ask for information. I think it was about a location, like to ask where something is or something. But what they were doing was they were collecting different accents, different ways that people say things, because when they got that call, they knew exactly what you said and they could put it in their AI. So then eventually their machines were trained enough to recognize language and to transcribe. And then they closed that service. I forgot what it was called, but it was this kind of like, it seemed like too much hand-holding that for free, But again, it's because they wanted to collect that data. And then once they had it, they could train their machines.
That's the CAPTCHA stuff?
Which one? The CAPTCHA?
The CAPTCHA?
Yeah, the CAPTCHA one is training
it's just training their AI again. It's just check the photo where there is a traffic light or I don't know a roof or a road, a train, and thank you for training my AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, guys,
all right. This was
pleasure
great.
as always. I hope it has been interesting and you've learned some stuff.
Yeah,
And
it actually doesn't look as hard as I thought it would be. So I might use it to play around for some
it's
stuff.
probably the hardest API I've encountered. Usually it's just a plain HTTP request to some endpoint and get the result, and that's it. And it's super easy. And this one you have to do a lot of stuff to work with. Actually, I went the hard way. Someone has developed an Angular component that takes care of everything.
Yeah.
But you lose some control.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing in React. There's React components that abstract some of this for you, and you're just.
But this component is not from Google. It's a private one. Everybody uses it. But the issue is that it by default it queries everything. So it doesn't make the query on just the basic details, and then you can add some the atmospheric on the hours or whatever. It just query everything, so you get charged for everything. And you cannot configure that. So I thought it was better to go, commando with that with the API, and because the other one is just download the component and follow the guide and just use the dependency injection and call the request, and that's it. You don't do anything. And then you won't learn anything either. Okay. Perfect. Right. Well, I hope I see you all next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much, Patrick.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
I appreciate it. Have a good one.